Hey everyone, welcome back to Engelbart Gaming. It's been quite a while since my last episode of Amiga arcade ports The Good, the Bad, and the Fugly, and I'm gonna go all Psycho Mantis on you and read your mind. Just please don't plug in a second controller while I work here. You think, yes, there it is. That Philistine Engelbart is never going to do another Amiga ports episode. And for all of you that think that,
well, you're wrong!
Anyway, this is a series where I take a look at 3 arcade ports or conversions to the Commodore Amiga platform. One that's good, one that's bad, and one that's really ugly or simple but still manages to be a decent game in the end. The Commodore Amiga series of computers have a reputation online for nothing but god-awful arcade ports. And while there are plenty of those, arcade ports or conversions to the system range the full gamut from utter garbage to completely amazing. Also in this series, I only take a look at ports from the computer's commercial lifetime, so we won't see any of the cool stuff from the homebrew scene of the last decade or so. Today's episode is all Capcom. The good game I'll be sharing with you is Pang/Buster Brothers. Filling today's bad slot is Black Tiger, and the fugly game of the day will be Tiger Road. All 3 of these games were made for OCS or original chipset Amigas, like the Amiga 1000, 500, and 2000. The vast majority of games made for the computer ran in a video mode that allowed for 32 colors on screen from a palette of 4096 total colors. Most games ran in a resolution of either 320 by 200 for NTSC machines or 320 by 256 for PAL machines. Games didn't typically use the system's paltry 8 hardware sprites, which could be as tall as the screen by the way, instead replacing hardware sprites in their conversions by pushing around glitter objects or bobs. Alright, enough about the computer, let's get on with it. We begin with a game of many names. A joint production between Capcom and Mitchell, this game first saw the light of day as Pumping World in Japan. It hit the US as Buster Brothers and landed in Europe as Pang. Now, even though I'm a United Statesian myself, I'll refer to it as Pang from now on because it's just shorter and simpler. Pang was a throwback to the arcade classics of a decade or so before its own release in 1989. Instead of blasting aliens at the top of the screen from the bottom of it with a little ship like you did in classics such as Space Invaders, Galaxian, Galaga, or loads of other games, we join a couple of little guys as they travel all around the world, popping bubbles that bounce above them and split up into smaller bubbles each time they get hit, until, well, they don't. It was a fun game and a surprise hit back in the day, since it wasn't one of the scrolling shooters, action games, or beat-em-ups that had come to dominate the arcade market at the time of its release. In 1990, Ocean released a version of Pang for multiple home computers in Europe, which included a release for the Amiga. And as you can see here, they did a really nice job on it. If every arcade port to the computer was handled as well as Pang was, its reputation would have been drastically better. The colors are great and there are actually more on screen than the Atari ST version. It looks like they used the Amiga version as the base instead of the other way around. Aside from looking great, Pang sounds pretty good too, with the best music on any of the home computer ports of the game, and I have to say I even prefer the music in this version of Pang to the Super Nintendo release of Super Buster Brothers from Capcom themselves. The Amiga version of Pang includes all 50 levels from the arcade original, and they even kept a lot of the arcade presentation touches, like the little pictures between stages and the maps between levels, which rarely happened in Amiga arcade ports/conversions of the era. Another thing that made Pang an ideal game to port to the Amiga is that the arcade game only uses a single action button. As I've said before, while the Amiga was capable of multi-button games, and some games actually do support 2 fire buttons, the vast majority of its titles only support a single button. For a lot of arcade conversions, that's often a serious issue, resulting in compromised controls. But not so for Amiga Pang. This version of Pang also includes 2-player simultaneous support. And the load times, while absolutely present and noticeable, are not overly bad either. Now sure, Pang may not have been the most challenging game in the world to convert to the Amiga hardware, but you still have to give credit where it's due. The Amiga hosted plenty of games that came from meager arcade or home systems with considerably less capabilities than the Amiga hardware, but the developers, in many cases, still managed to completely screw up the Amiga versions of those games. But thankfully, they cared enough about Pang to do it right. So if you want to show someone another example of a good Amiga arcade port/conversion, well, here you go. You've got one in Pang. Next up we have Black Tiger. This Capcom title was released into the arcades in 1987 and didn't exactly light the arcade market on fire, but had its share of fans. You can see the DNA of a lot of later Capcom releases in this one, like Magic Sword and even Forgotten Worlds. It's sort of a mishmash of a few genres, including hack and slash, platformer, shooter, and even RPG. You take control of a dude who can swing what looks like a morning star that also shoots a whole bunch of daggers out of its end. You can collect keys to open chests, find a bunch of Capcom's favorite video game currency known as zenny, rescue old men that were turned to stone, enter special dungeon areas to find more riches, and you can even enter shops to buy better weapons, armors, potions, or even more keys for those chests. It's a solid concept, and it's a shame that Black Tiger never received a single console port back in the day, and this one really feels like it would have been ideal for platforms like the PC Engine / TurboGrafx 16 or the Genesis / Mega Drive. Maybe someone will do something about that someday, who knows. Let's begin with a few still shots of the Amiga version, released by US Gold in 1990. Hey, this looks pretty nice, doesn't it? It's actually fairly close looking to the arcade version.
I don't see what's wrong with this one.
Now let's see it in motion, and...
Oh.
Yeah, US Gold developed a reputation for producing and publishing especially bad arcade conversions on home computers over the years. And well, Black Tiger is basically another pile of digital slop from them. What's kind of hilarious is many of the European magazines out at the time gave this game, this one you're looking at right now, review scores of 7 or above, out of 10 even. Crazy, right? I mean, if we were thinking maybe about like out of 100 or maybe out of 50, then I could see this game getting a 7. But out of 10? Get out of here. Let's talk about what's wrong with this version of the game. It's slow, real slow. It's choppy, real choppy. It only supports one fire button, so that button attacks, and like many other Amiga side-scrolling games, you have to press up to jump. In Black Tiger, pressing up to jump makes leaping off of these pole-like structures you have to climb in the game about 1,000,000 times harder than it should be in places. And the jump controls, in general, are just terrible. It's way too easy to overshoot platforms and jump into piles of spikes. This is not something that was an issue with the arcade original. And on top of all that, 2 of the arcade game's levels were also cut from this version. But honestly, that may be a mercy. Until you've played this game yourself, which I wouldn't recommend to anyone that wants to maintain a grip on their sanity, you just can't fathom how tragically awful, how profoundly disastrous it truly is. We didn't even get to sound yet. There's a tiny digitized clip of the first level's music that plays over the title screen. And well, that's it. That's the only music in the game. After that, it is strictly sound effects only. The only nice thing that I can say about this game is that the main character animation is still pretty good, so yay for that, I guess? But this is a game that should have been right in the Amiga's wheelhouse, and the machine could have supported a very competent and complete, if not superior, version of Black Tiger. Instead, we get another festering garbage pile for the ages. Unless you're tired of seeing things and want your eyes to burst and melt out of their sockets in utter disgust, I'd suggest avoiding this one. Seeing it here for a few minutes is bad enough. Oh, if only someone would do this arcade game justice on some other platform. Like, probably this year, sometime in 2026. Can we even dare to dream of such a thing?
All I know is my gut says maybe.
Alrighty, here's Tiger Road, another classic Capcom platform action game from yesteryear. Yesteryear, in this case, being exactly 39 actual years ago as I record this. Tiger Road didn't exactly win any major awards, but it did okay in the arcade market when it was released in 1987. It's a fun, action-heavy title with a fair amount of platforming and an Eastern theme. The arcade version is about as polished as the typical Capcom arcade game of the era, and controls well, looks okay, and sounds okay. It's another fairly simple game that should have been relatively easy to recreate on a bunch of platforms that were available by the time home conversions started coming out. Oddly enough, this only made its way to a single game console, with a really weird looking version for the PC Engine in Japan that took an awful lot of liberties and was really more like a sequel than a port. So let's see how it shaped up on the Amiga. The Amiga version of Tiger Road came out in 1989 and was developed by, Probe Software. Probe wasn't big on consistency. Sometimes you got absolute gutter trash like the Amiga version of Outrun, and other times they developed pretty decent stuff like the Amiga versions of Golden Axe and Mortal Kombat. So where exactly in the Probe quality spectrum does Tiger Road fall? Right in the middle. First off, Amiga Tiger Road takes place in a small window and in general is way sloppier than the arcade game. The play mechanics feel different, the timing on everything feels off, the frame rate is a lot lower, enemies move and behave differently, there are some subtle and non-subtle level design changes, it's missing a few stages, and it doesn't have any of the arcade music. Now that might sound like a recipe for total disaster when you hear all of that, but somehow, the game is still kind of okay. Now it's not what I'd call good, but it's okay. You could play it and have fun with it. On the positive side, the brand new music in this version of the game is actually good. When I was younger and this game was new, I often played it just as a vehicle to listen to its song. Like some Amiga games from back then, you can't have music and sound effects active at the same time, you have to toggle the sonic experience in which you want to indulge. But good news is, you can change between music and sound effects at any time. And when the song reaches its end, you also have to toggle the music off and then back on to start it over, otherwise you'll be walking around in silence. The only real problem here with the music is that there's just one song, but at least it's a good one. So we know that the visuals are underwhelming and the music is pretty nice, so what about the gameplay? How does it play?
Not well.
Well, that's not completely fair, Ron Howard. Let's just say passably. It doesn't feel much like the arcade game. The movement, attacking, and jumping mechanics all feel much different and are much less refined. Having said that, it's still okay. If I were grading its playability on a scale of A through F, I'd probably give it a solid C. And I'm a teacher, so that's like official, you know? Seriously though, Tiger Road on the Amiga is ugly and a tad slow, but as a complete package, it's actually alright and seems like a masterpiece next to Black Tiger. This isn't the type of game that I ever wanted to show off to my friends back in the day. But if you're just sitting down at night to have a little fun and want to relax, if you give this one just a few minutes to get used to its quirks, you'll probably manage to extract a good bit of fun out of it. So there you go, a look at a good, a bad, and a fugly arcade port to the trusty old Commodore Amiga. Pang is a solid conversion done right, and completely worth playing. Black Tiger is digital excrement that will stink up any room that it's in. Tiger Road is a bit sloppy and kinda ugly, but also still kinda okay in the end, thanks in large part to its nice soundtrack. So what about you folks? Was this video the first time you saw the Amiga versions of any of these games today? Were you already familiar with them? What are your favorite good, bad, and fugly Amiga arcade ports to talk about? Tell me all about it in the comments. That'll do it for this video, my retro gaming friends. If you enjoyed it, please like it and share it online somewhere. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of my videos. If you want to support the work that I do here, you can do that on Patreon, Ko-fi, or right here on YouTube through things like Super Thanks and channel memberships. With that, I'll say thanks for watching, and see me later.